star so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. I'm coming to you a little late. Had a busy day today. Got a lot of baseball going on here in Western Nevada. Got a full week. So, anyways, we're back at it. This is the Friggin Farm and Ranch Report for Monday, May 11th, 2026. I'm Matt McKinley, and I'm coming to you out of Yerington, Nevada. Got a split personality type tape here today. Grains ripped, cattle got hammered, and diesel is up nearly 30 cents in a week. We're waiting on the new EIA average to come out this week. But long story short, it's a knife fight, not too much of a market. Corn was up 21 1/4 cents to 4.74 1/4. Beans up 32 cents a bushel at 12.11. Kansas City wheat up 11 1/2 to 6.87 1/4. And that's all ahead of tomorrow's noon Eastern WASDE report being released. June live cattle down 383 to 249.65. August feeder cattle got hammered. They were down 995 to 362.45. And Brownfield Ag is reporting that the Trump administration is fixing to temporarily suspend tariffs on beef exporting nations to lower beef prices, I guess. So the Packers will be happy about that. They won't have to really pick up their chain speed too much. They don't have to bid up these expensive fat cattle here domestically, and they can go ahead and import it from Brazil and Argentina and was it Zambia or Namibia, I think is where, somewhere in Africa. Anyway, before we get too much further into it, because next section's about the Burnin Daylight Report, which you can find over at burnindaylight.substack.com. You'll have access to all the apps that I'm putting together. Right now, I've got the Burnin Daylight Report, which is a dashboard that I use to help me get ready for this show every day, and also a Man About a Horse, which is my equine intelligence app, and it's pretty cool. Still working on it. Still got some bugs to work out, but it's pretty neat. And if you're in the horse business at all, whether you're just cowboying and flipping horses on the side, or if you're a breeder, trainer, whatever, hit me up if you're interested in this, because I would like some help honing in some stuff, particularly the see a man about a horse feature, which is, it's a tool that helps you price your horse, how much it's realistically worth, and what way you should market it, whether it be through a sale barn, private treaty, some of these big catalog sales. It all depends on what the horse is, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like try to narrow down the horse market a little bit, or at least put a better definition on it. It's because it is scattered. Anyways, all of that stuff can be found at burnindaylight.substack.com. You sign up there and you actually get access to all those platforms at a discounted rate than you would normally. So please go check that out. Also, go follow me on all the social medias. It's all of them, basically: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Rumble. Is that all of them? Probably not, but it's a good chunk of them. Anyways, I haven't made my own social media app yet. Maybe I'll do that. That's probably a disaster waiting to happen, but why not? So anyway, go check all that out, and particularly on the Burnin Daylight Report, we've got a couple alerts that we need to look at. But before that, the watch side of my my engine tells you like what you should do with the market. Says watch. It's at a 51% confidence, so medium confidence. And then my freedom framework is sitting at a 54 out of 100, mixed confidence there. So the bottom line with all of that is the market's at an inflection point. So wait for confirmation before acting. That's pretty much the whole show in 3 sentences. But I'm going to talk longer than that. I'm a little bit long-winded. I'm pulling a Joe Biden here. Anyway. Weather's warming up here in Western Nevada. It was about 90 degrees today. It was a great day to play baseball. A couple of the kids were bitching about it being too hot, but I let them take plenty of water breaks, and we had a good practice. All right, let's get to the alerts. So act now on the diesel. Diesel's up 29 cents a gallon from last week. We'll wait to see what the new report says, but it's pretty bleak. So I don't, and the way the war is going over in the Middle East, I don't see diesel prices coming down. I don't see energy prices coming down a whole lot in the near term until something gets figured out there. On deck, we've got the drought watch. D3 and D4 drought cover about 16% or almost 17% of regions in the U.S. The Southeast being the most hit the most hard at 85%. The Mid-South is at 74%. Southwest at 64%. Southern Plains at 45%. And then we got the Corn Belt and the Upper Midwest at 0. So they got some rain, and that's really the only thing keeping corn from running another dollar or so. And then we also have 4 ag bills advancing in Congress. So we'll hit those on the policy side of things here later. And then, yeah, that diesel thing, we keep hitting it, but it's an important thing. I don't even have a diesel pickup, and I'm kind of thankful for that at the moment. But diesel goes into everything that goes on a truck. That truck is, unless it's one of those Tesla semis, and there's not a ton of those out there. But we got a Tesla factory over by Reno, so I see them quite a bit. But nowhere near nowhere near what I see on the diesel side of things. Big rigs all run on diesel except for those Teslas, as far as I know. All right. Now we'll get into the numbers from my app, my Burnin Daylight Report. So the bias watch is a 51%. That is medium, and the signal is driving that. Is the corn's up almost 5% to $4.75 a bushel. Feed price is rising, and your soybean meal is at $325 a ton. Your live cattle came in weak at 249.65, meaning your packer leverage is up, and the drought is elevated. 37% of the country in a D2 or better, or D2 or worse, not better. D2 plus 37%. And the freedom framework, which measures on, that's these numbers here across the top of the screen, right above me. You got the demand block, but it's 5 categories that it uses to determine how free the market is. So it's moved 2 points upwards over the last couple of weeks, but feed costs are still high, and so that's at a 50. So that's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Beef supply is at a 53, so still, it's a concern, and has been for a while. Policy is at a 56, so that has got better. It seems like there's been some positive moves in our direction on the policy side of things. Demand is still strong. At 61 out of 100, and then drought is at 49. So that has improved in the recent weeks. But the demand leg is the only part of that that's above 60. So my engine says watch, not act. And so that means you really gotta play your cards right, because you could make some money in this market, but man, it's definitely not a get rich market. Okay, on the cattle side of things, we got some threads converging here that we've been watching. So we got the Big Four Packer antitrust talk. We got the sale barn pulse. We got feed yard margins and leverage all rolled up into this one deal here, and that is that cattle are under pressure. On the future side, June live cattle closed out at 249.65. That was down 383 on the day, about a 1.5%, 1.51%. August feeders got hammered. They closed out at 362.45. That was down $9.95. 100 on the day, 2 2/3% drop. At the midday mark, it was at live cattle were at 248.73, and feeders at 360.70. So they did rally a bit to close the day, but still down overall. Brownfield's reporting that June live closed at up 50 cents. And August up 55. The live board fought back, and feeders got crushed. So it tells you that trade pricing tariff suspension, that the trade pricing tariff suspension is bearish for replacements longer out, and the near term fats are tight. The supply is tighter than the headline might suggest. Cattle on feed numbers, nothing's changed on that end. Still waiting on the April numbers, but 11.55 million head on feed. That's the same as a year ago. Placements are at 1.61 million. That was up 4% from last year, and most of those being 700 to 899 pound. So on the heavier end. And then marketing's at 93%, so down 7%, sharply lower from last year. That's nothing new that we've talked about, but it's worth reiterating, just to show that the cattle market is very constricted. So carrying forward, those heavy 700 to 899 pounders, they hit the Fed market between now and August. So the near-term supply story is even with the marketing slow. On the sale barn pulse, I got six barns that I've been keeping an eye on over the last couple of weeks. So we'll start off with Oklahoma City West there in El Reno. On May 5th, they ran 780 or averaged 787 pounds on 10,138 head. A lot of cattle came through on May 5th. They averaged 368.93. Over in Clovis, New Mexico, we had 635 head, averaging 600 pounds. Brought 654.25. Damn. Producers down in San Angelo, 614 pound average on 462 head, 476.89 per 100 on the average there. Torrington on May 8th, they had 744 head, 1,313 pound average, bringing 212.52. So that was mostly cull stock, probably coming off Nebraska fires. If I had to guess, I don't know that for certain. Up in Billings, Montana, Billings livestock market, they sold 1,427 head. They averaged 1,031, bringing 365.73 per 100 on average. Pretty heavy in on then. I imagine there was some bred cows and stuff in there. Producers out of Salina, Utah. I just looked this up a minute ago because where are we at? There we are. I'll pop it up on the screen. My numbers on my slideshow are wonky, so I'll just run down there. For May 5th, they had They ran 1,125 head. Lot of seems like pairs, cows, heiferettes, cutting bulls, slaughter bulls. Not bringing a ton of money. On the feeders and the heifers, we had like the 200 to 300 weights were bringing anywhere from 635 to 700, averaging 669.96. All the way on the heavy end on the 900 and 1,000 pounders, they brought 326.07 average, anywhere from 295 to 335. 400 to 500 pounders, averaging 531.30, anywhere from 449 to 575. On the same weight on the heifers, they averaged 474.92, bringing 422.50 to 520. So, all that to say is, like, the light cattle are like they're really firing on the light cattle. The midweights are holding ground, and the heavies got a little bit of air coming out. But grass country guys are bidding up replacements, and feed yards are cautious on the closeouts. And then I guess on that same note, we got the Big Four Packer investigation. And so I was reading up a little bit on my app, as one does. And so I noticed that a lot of these articles that were showing up were from Beef Magazine, and that is known to be heavily biased towards the packing industry and this, I guess, overall the status quo of the way the cattle and beef market sits right now. So this one was about the Big Four antitrust deal. It was written by Neville Spear, and I did some research on this guy because I know that I know that Beef Magazine is pretty heavily biased. So I said, do some background research on this guy and tell me where he stands on the ranchers and feeders versus packers struggle. Said Neville Spear is generally on the pro-market, packer margin flexibility side of the debate, and is skeptical of government interventions that try to force structural or pricing changes in favor of ranchers and feeders, though he argues that the long-term rancher and feeder health depends on a profitable, demand-driven beef supply chain. So I do agree with him on that last part, and I generally agree with him on the pro-market, but I'm not pro-packer side of the debate. So I am skeptical of government interventions. However, I do believe that the packers have been wildly manipulating the market, and I do believe the antitrust probe is warranted. I don't believe, however, that much will get done, and that's essentially what this guy was saying in his article. So the article was entitled Packers, Politics, and Theater. Corporate consolidation isn't unique to the meat processing sector, so why the DOJ, USDA political theater? So while I may agree with this dude on some of his assertions, he's also just clearly in the pocket of the Packers. So press conference, he said politicians and government officials have a propensity for talking and never really saying anything. The reality was on full display during the recent Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins press conference. Peter Navarro also participated, but for this column we'll ignore all that. I'm going to go ahead and read a pretty good chunk of this article because it wasn't overall bad. I agree with him on a lot of things. The reasons why I agree with him are a little different. The primary topic was supposed to be beef processors and antitrust issues. Amidst it all, several principles are important. Foreign company. Primarily, I keep thinking about South Park. I imagine Cartman saying something like, "Holy shit, man, haven't they said foreign like a million times?" The official count was 12. It was unnecessarily repetitive, but why I mention it at all, and as it applies to meat processing. More on that below. So I don't think it was unnecessarily repetitive. It was repetitive, but it is worth noting that 2 of the 4 largest beef processors in the U.S. are Brazilian owned. On the pork side, you got a lot of Chinese ownership, or you did. I don't know if that's still the case. Regardless, I don't think it was unnecessarily repetitive. It was repetitive. So he says, let's stick with agriculture. What about Nutrien and Bunge, or what about everyday food companies like Unilever or Burger King? And what about farmers and ranchers who own Ram trucks? That's Stellantis, or Case New Holland tractors. Are their operations less legitimate? Lastly, let's not forget Rabobank, nor the foreign investors who purchase bonds sold by CO Bank or Farm Credit. If foreign is really an important destruction, never mind meat processing, let's get after the big rocks like Shell and BP. And along the way, be sure not to overlook the likes of Saudi Aramco, owner and operator of the largest refinery in the U.S. All of that is fine talking points, but we're not talking about the oil business or any of that. We're talking about the beef packers in particular. That is what we're looking at. However, you're right. We should be looking at Shell and British Petroleum and anything that is essential to survival here in the U.S., food and energy and shelter, should not be controlled by foreign entities. And that's so to quote him, you get the idea. He doesn't get the idea. But so on the collusion side of things, per acting AG Blanche, the conference was intended to highlight the administration's investigation of, quote, potential antitrust violations in U.S. cattle and beef markets, end quote. He explained the Department of Justice has now reviewed over 3 million documents and has further contacted and interviewed hundreds of industry participants, including ranchers, cattlemen, producers, and processors. But potential does not translate to performance. The DOJ is still hunting, promoting financial incentives to prospective whistleblowers. So on that part, I do agree with him 100%. Potential doesn't translate to performance, and also, I don't hold my breath that this is really going to go anywhere. To that end, one of the key questions came from Bloomberg. So the Justice Department has opened a meatpacking investigation in 2020, had opened a meatpacking investigation in 2020 and closed it last year. Can you tell us what is different about this investigation into meatpacking? AG Blanche didn't answer the question directly. He just assured us that this investigation is being done, I assure you, for the right reasons. The acting AG is from the government, and he's here to help. So playing on the libertarian fundamentals of your average rancher, not trusting government, which is true. However, if you're a rancher, this is your guy that you put in, and you're hoping he's going to do something, and it seems like he's at least making the appearance of doing so. Meanwhile, Secretary Rollins cited these stats. According to USDA data, concentration for cattle slaughter of these 4 processing companies was only 25% in 1977 and jumped to 71% by 1992. As mentioned today, it is an astounding 85%. She fudged the facts. USDA's most recent data pegs it at 81%, roughly unchanged versus 20 plus years ago. In other words, neither new nor astounding. Well, it is pretty astounding that 4 companies own 81% of the market. So 80, 85%, 81%. there's a pretty significant miss on that number if his numbers are true. That's what he says. He doesn't have a link to it though. So, and he said, as I explained here, corporate consolidation isn't unique to the processing sector. No, it's not. The list is lengthy. Truck manufacturers, bad. Farm equipment, bad. Farm supply, bad. Farm credit, bad. Animal health, consolidated, bad. Food service, bad. Grocery retailers, bad, etc. Shouldn't the same concerns apply to all those industries too? Yes. Singling out the packer to the exclusion of all the other industries calls to mind Upton Sinclair's great quote. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on not understanding it. It's funny he chose he's talking about free markets and he chose to quote an avowed socialist. The Agriculture Secretary then explained packers can exercise unprecedented ability to wield market power and influence prices paid for cattle. But if there's collusion happening, then one would expect the following to be playing out within the industry. The business would be contracting. It is. Like how many plants have been shut down here lately? And that's not all because of the cattle supply, but the business is contracting, like literally contracting. Introduction of new products and or branding would be stifled. Okay, I would say that it probably has been. Beef processors would be immensely profitable. They are. And producers would be losing money. They are. All of those are true. And he says none of that's happening. I don't see, this is why I do my vetting. I do my vetting on this. And so another article from Beef Magazine, and this is from a like a futures trader guy. When will the bull market end? And let me find it again. Here we go. It says live cattle prices have increased 525% since 2022. Many in the industry are now afraid of the market, fearing that the top is near. For producers, this concern is totally understandable because record high feeder cattle prices are forcing projected break-even prices to unheard of price levels. Managing risk after placing calves into a feedlot has become most difficult. The futures market has no carry, meaning deferred contracts are discounted to the front month. The lack of a hedge in futures leaves limited choices for managing risk. The LRP program, while fully subsidized by the federal government, can be expensive and inflexible. However, these concerns, while very real, have actually have little to do with whether or not the bull market will remain intact. I'll pop that on the screen so you can follow along. The forces of supply and demand will determine when the bull market ends. Currently, there is little evidence that any meaningful type of herd expansion has started. Beef cattle slaughter has been running consistently below last year, but this appears to be a function of record high calf prices. My guess is that producers are choosing to get one more calf from that old cow before sending her off to market. Expansions don't start through low cow slaughter, but rather through aggressive heifer retention. Producers make the decision to retain heifers for breeding rather than for placement into the feedlot. This is when expansion begins. Of course, in the short term, this also tightens supplies further as placements drop when retention occurs. Repeating, there's no evidence that we've entered this phase of the cattle cycle. He says there are three main reasons why, despite record high feeder cattle prices and record high cash steer prices, expansion of the beef herd has not started. First and most important is widespread drought in the Great Plains. Cows need grass, and drought conditions make it difficult, if not impossible, to maintain an increasing number of cows on a given ranch. Second, the average age of the cow-calf producer in the U.S. is thought to be north of 60 years. And many of these producers have no one interested in taking their ranch over because there's no money in it. And third, high interest rates reduce the incentive to expand business, including the beef cow herd. Finally, there's another serious threat to the supply side of the beef market. This is the spread of the New World screwworm in Mexico. Active screwworm cases continue to edge northward towards Texas. If the screwworm invades Texas this summer, there will not be any expansion of beef cows in Texas, and there's a strong possibility that large losses of cows could occur. I anticipate that the border will remain closed to feeder cattle shipments coming up from Mexico for the rest of the year. So long story short, he goes on to talk about some of the hedging strategies that he suggests, and you can read it for yourself. It's all on beefmagazine.com. What was that guy's name? Dennis Smith, and he seemed like he's more just a straightforward futures trader type guy, and not so much weeding in or diving into the weeds on the fight between the Packers and the ranchers. So I trust him slightly more than the last guy, but yeah, whatever. Okay. Feed yard margins now. Quick profit and loss deal. So corn's at $4.75 a bushel and soybean meal's at $3.25 a ton. That means the ration climbing as the live cattle takes a $3.83 haircut. The squeeze is in real time, and then the diesel at the plus 29 cents on the freight side. Yards that placed in late February, early March at placement peak are looking at narrower closeouts than the board suggested 2 weeks ago. Carry that forward. We got the screwworm deal. So the border opening has been delayed. The screwworm is inching closer. And last year, last year we didn't have cattle, Mexican cattle either. So we're going on 2 years in a row without importing any Mexican steers, and that makes guys like Bill Bullard happy. But guys down in South Texas, and then like we had here in Nevada, and then on grass in California, those guys are not happy with it because now they gotta pay premium dollar for a very small supply of domestic cattle. So on the box beef inversion deal, there's I didn't get a fresh print on today, but I'm pretty sure that let's see. I've got my chat bot. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna do it, folks. I'm gonna do it. All right, research. What was the choice /select spread today? Most recent is choice came in at 391.22. That was up 283. Selects at 391.49. That's up 648. So the spread's inverted again, which that also tells me, for my sake, that I need to. I forget where I was going on that. So I've been right on that. On that, my AI engine has been saying that we're in the clear on that choice select spread, but it also tells me on my engine deal that I need to revisit the beef demand side, because if select is outperforming choice, that means demand is very, very real. Anyways, so we're back in the negative spread territory. It's a weird market we're in right now. Bottom line, it's a cautious tone. Protect margin and wait for fresh cash and sale barn confirmations before chasing feeders. All right, we got some upcoming sales coming up. We got on Tuesday, We got producers in San Angelo. We got Beaver County stockyards down in Oklahoma. And we got Lone Star stockyards there in Wildorado, Texas. Wednesday, we got Clovis, New Mexico, and a Superior video auction. Thursday, we got Billings up in Montana, and then producers in Utah. And also we got Torrington. And then next Monday, we got OKC West there in El Reno. So tell me if you're seeing some crazy numbers at your local sale barn, please send them my way. I'll make sure to read them out on the air. All right, let's get into the grain side of things. All green, and we're waiting on the WASDE report. I'm going to check I forget what WASDE stands for. What is the WASDE report? I just want to know what the acronym is. Anyways, corn, that was up 21 3/4 cents a bushel. That's almost 5%. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates is what the WASDE is. Okay. Soybeans at 12.11. That's up 32 cents, 2.71%. Kansas City hard red winter wheat's at 687.25 a bushel. That's up 11.5 cents, almost 2% on the day. Soybean meal is at 325.10 a ton. That's up 5.30 a ton, a 1 2/3%. We got the Trump Xi Jinping meeting in Beijing. A lot of ings in that sentence. But Farm Progress says a potential trophy on the bean trade is in the view. The counter to that is Brazilian beans offer a better deal for China, and the record U.S. crush is bullish, but record Brazilian acreage and overdue yield bump could shatter the party. Planting numbers are mixed. The Northern Plains are off to the race per Peterson Farms. Central Missouri and Southeast Michigan compressed by rain, and South Dakota spring wheat slow on the moisture. And then flash sales, both Mexico and South Korea bought corn today. Farm Progress says prepare for big corn market moves. Volatility cuts both ways. Cash target orders in, protect your unpriced bushels, and buy hedges is the recommendation there. So the WASDE preview is it's the old crop carryout versus the new crop acres, and so that'll tell us a lot on what is going on as far as planting and what the projections are for the rest of the year. All right, let's get into some more of the inputs on the energy side of things. I'll drop this down. So as of last week, highway diesel's at $5.64 a gallon. That was up 29 cents on the week. The AAA national average, we got regular at $4.52 a gallon, mid-grade at $4.99.7, premiums at $5.37.4, and your highway diesel's at $5.63.6. So the AAA average, right in line with the EIA average at the moment, and the E85 fuels at 326.6 or 362.6. Regular unleaded is the highest since June of 2022. It crossed 450 last weekend, and the May 7th release from AAA said the national average was up 25 cents for the second straight week. That's not a blip. That's starting to be a trend. Diesel's about 15 cents from an all-time historical record on the national average per the trucking side. Per trucking side post May 5th. One bad week from the high water mark in this country's diesel history. I also looked up the off-road diesel as well. And the EIA doesn't break that out weekly, but the rule of thumb is dyed diesel runs about 20 to 50 cents under highway diesel, depending on the state road tax. So on that note, filling a bulk tank, figure $5.10 to $5.35 a gallon in the real world for most of the West. I'll call some of the local co-ops and see what prices are running here locally, because they're going to be different, probably higher than what the national average sets. The off-road number does matter though, because that's all your tractors, your irrigation pumps, your generators, all the equipment that you use. It's a real cost of putting up first cutting this year. All right, on the energies and metals side of things. So on the crude oil, West Texas index at 98.25, that was up 3.17, about 3.3% on the day. Brent's at 104.42, that was up 3.15, up another 3% on that. Gold closed out at 47.45.60, that was up about 1.36%. Silver's at 86.81. That was up 13%. That's not a typo. 13.01% on the silver. Copper's at 6.49 a pound. That was up. Damn, that's almost 6%. That's definitely a demand signal. Fertilizer pretty. So it's at 6.82 a ton. That's up 14 from last month, so nothing new on those yet. 5.49 a ton for urea. Potash is at 3.98 a ton. That's only one of those fertilizers that took a dip. The prime and feeder finance rates have not changed, but silver up 13% in the session means something. Also with copper being up almost 6%. It's inflation for sure, but also industrial demand. It could be some speculators getting out of the market, but with the amount of, because I know silver is used a lot in electronics, and copper is used with anything electrical, and the amount of ordnance and stuff that we have been going through over in the Middle East is surely adding to that demand. I would imagine. I don't have any real concrete data behind that, but I do know that silver and copper are used a lot in munitions and weaponry, so that makes sense. On the drought side, we covered it a little bit earlier, but we'll just rehash it. So the Southeast, the Mid-South, and the Southwest, all in pretty bad shape. But the Southeast and the Mid-South, like really bad droughts. Southern Plains, still pretty tough, depending on where you're at. Pacific Northwest, that's probably mostly in like Eastern Oregon and Eastern Washington, where the drought is. But Corn Belt, California, Upper Midwest, all sitting pretty okay. But the Southeast and the Mid-South numbers are the story. Cow-calf country from Georgia to Arkansas is just baking. It's pressure on the hay. It's make you really think hard about your culling decisions, and the summer placements out on the out of the southern tier. Locally here, it's pretty dry. We got a little bit of moisture last week, and there was some snowpack up top, but it's I don't know. It's still pretty dry. But then again, it is the desert, so what are you going to do there? All right. So some of the stories you ought to hear. This is on the domestic ag angle. So story number one, the USDA just completely missed the 2025 corn estimate by 4.5 million acres, per the New York Times. So on April 30th, USDA, that was April 30th, the New York Times reported that. USDA projected July at 86.8 million acres of corn. That was revised up 1.3 million acres by January. And the final harvest was 91.3. So that was a 5% miss. That was the biggest in recent history, per the former chief economist Seth Meyer. He says it's, quote, it's a miss, no other word to call it. Why this matters is every hedge, every cash marketing decision, every basis you call is made off of USDA reports in the back half of 2025 was made off of bad data. 5% of the U.S. corn crop is bigger than the state of Delaware in acres. This happened while the administration was cutting USDA staff and running a trade war that jacked up equipment costs. That is one of the things with the Trump's hatchet method of cutting the federal government, which I'm a fan of in general, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go smooth. Particularly when you're laying off a bunch of USDA staff, and now you missed the you missed the corn crop by the state of Delaware. So that all ties into the Farm Bill and the DC policy leverage thread that we've been harping on. When data folks are gutted, the safety net runs on bad numbers, and reference prices are set on bad acres. Don't really protect anybody. So how much of that was the USDA being cut, and how much of that was the farmers lying or miscalculating on their deal? Who knows? But it's the federal government. You can't expect them to operate efficiently, no matter who's in charge. When Trump's a good example of this. It doesn't matter who you vote for. You end up with John McCain. For everybody who's not familiar, John McCain never met a war he didn't want to fight or send somebody else to go fight into, which is surprising because that dude lost the use of largely lost the use of his arms in a Vietnamese prisoner of war camp. Anyhow, story number 2 is 70% of U.S. farmers can't afford their inputs this year, according to an American Farm Bureau survey in April. 70% say they cannot afford their input costs this year. That stacks up against today's ticker, with the corn being up 4.8%, meals up 1.66, and DAP fertilizers up $14 a ton to $682 a ton. Urea's up $8 to $5.49 a ton, and diesel is at $5.64 a gallon. The Farm Bureau at the March Senate Ag hearing said that USDA projects farm income down nearly $50 billion below levels of a few years ago. The real story behind every farmers are optimistic about planting headline is guys in the field are short on cash before the crop's in the ground. This ties into the drought and the grass pressure as well, and the feedlot margins, and Brownfield's November loan renewal price warning of a default wave in 2026. So it's not great if you're raising food. Okay, and then on story number 3, California groundwater law is finally biting the Central Valley, per NPR on March 9th. So the 2014 Sustainable Groundwater Management Act finally taking effect, and Madera County farmers are being told to cut what they pump. Surprising operators, even though it's been telegraphed for years. I'm guessing they were hoping they would get struck down. Why it's on the show, though, is what's happening in Madera is the canary in the coal mine for every western water basin, including ours in Nevada, the Ogallala, and any of them. So once the state enforces the well rules, value of your water rights and the value of your dirt changes overnight. HR 7567, or that's 2026 Farm Bill draft, has new rural water and conservation provisions tied to drought resilience across the Colorado River Basin states. This also ties into ag policy and range rules, watch drought and grass pressure and the farm bill conversation. So, okay. So keep an eye on the groundwater stuff. I need to talk to my old man about this California law and see how that compares to Colorado. And I need to get old West back on the show and do a Water Wars update. We'll do that soon. And then I'll be heading back there this summer at some point, and we'll make sure and sit down and have a good conversation with him. All right, Fence Post politics time. We got I still can't really call it Fence Post politics. I didn't even think about the Fence Post when I made that name, and I just plagiarized the shit out of it. But anyways, on the policy side, HR 7567, that's the 2026 Farm Food and National Security Act, introduced February 13th. Blah 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 blah. There has been some movement, and we'll see where we are. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Missouri AG Catherine Hanaway wants Congress or a Supreme Court to settle interstate commerce mess on the state livestock rules. The Prop 12 fallout is still in motion. That is a California law that decides how you have to raise your hogs. The USDA One Farmer, One File was announced at the Commodity Classic in February. It's a big modernization unifying the FSA, the NRCS, and the RMA systems by 2028. If it works, it cuts paperwork, and if it doesn't, it's just another login page that nobody keeps straight. And then tariff suspension on beef exporting nations was a headline that knocked cattle around today. We'll have to watch for the formal announcement and the full list of countries before we see how that all goes. Okay. On this day in history, we've got a whole bunch of rural America talking about. So the Homestead Act was making its way through Congress on this day in 1862. When it was passed, it provided 160 acres for anyone willing to farm it for 5 years, and it was a good start for a lot of people, my ancestors included. On May 11th, 1837, one of the first U.S. agriculture patents was issued and improved farming tools and helped productivity across early American ag. It was the same year that John Deere began manufacturing plows. And the same year and the same month, the technology revolution and dirt farming really kicked off. On May 11th, 1858, Minnesota was admitted as the 32nd state. I bet you they didn't think it would be overrun by Somalians in the state capital back then, but you never know. Maybe somebody had that on their bingo card. May 11th, 1935, FDR created the Rural Electrification Administration as a New Deal program. Day power started running to rural America. That was the day that power started running to rural America. Before the REA, less than 10% of the U.S. farms had electricity, and by the 1950s, it was over 90%. Single executive order that changed rural life for quite a bit more than a tractor, and well, I wouldn't say quite a bit more, but probably every bit as much as the tractor. So in 1837, you got the plow. 1862, you got the land, and 1935, you got the lights. It was a century of building rural America piece by piece, and I don't know if we're building much of anything anymore. All right. Before we get out of here, we'll take a look at the sports Baseball's in full swing. NBA playoffs, the conference semifinals start tonight. Cavs at Pistons, doesn't start tonight. They're going on, but the Cavs at Pistons game 4. Detroit leads 2-1 on that. That game's probably over by now. The Avalanche. The Avalanche were playing Minnesota tonight, and I'll have to see. Let me see what they did. Pretty nice. The Avs won 5-2 over Minnesota. They now lead the series 3-1. We had on the baseball side, we had 6 games, pretty light slate today. Mariners beat the Astros. Diamondbacks beat the Rangers 1-0. Nathan Eovaldi shoved once again. Took the loss though. I don't know if he got credited with the loss, but they still lost. Giants at the Dodgers. I think Giants were winning that last I looked. But that's about it. We are headed to San Diego next week to watch the A's play the Padres. So that'll be fun. But that's pretty much what I got for you. We'll do a quick little recap before we get you on your way. 3 takeaways. So watch the WASDE at noon tomorrow as I'm recording this. That'll be noon as you are listening to it. Grains ran today on that positioning. The report will decide if that grain rally holds. Cattle tone is defensive. It's not broken by any means. The feeders took a bigger hit than the fats on the news of the tariff suspension. The trade thinks that replacements get cheaper before the fed cattle do. The tight on feed numbers and 93% marketings versus a year ago say near-term fats stay supported even if the headline reads bearish. Don't chase the down move on quality replacements you actually need. Diesel's a silent killer, and it's not even all that silent if you ever heard a diesel engine. This week, 564 highway diesel, AAA at 563.6, so essentially the same thing. 15 cents from an all-time record. 29 cents up in a week. If you have locked in your fall fuel, today might have been last day to get in on what is still an extremely high price. All right. That's all I got for you from now. This has been the Friggin' Farm and Ranch Report for Monday, May 11th, 2026. Don't let your butt crack. Stay safe out there and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Just together, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.